Good evening. I know that there is a feast going on here, the feast of the last day of the semester, not the Last Supper, but the last day of the semester. Drinking and shenanigans going on. So I realize that it might be hard for people to find a parking, but we're going to stick to our program. Welcome. One before the last event of the year. We have one more event. I'll tell you a little bit about that before I tell you a little bit about our speaker tonight. One of the things we have been doing this year is try to find very talented Iranian young writers, poets, playwrights, and try to invite them to Stanford to give us a chance to hear from them and to give them a chance to see Stanford and see what happens on this side of the world. We've had several of those, and the last in that series is a woman writer called Sepideh Mohammadian. Sepideh Mohammadian will be coming from Iran. I think she might be on the way here already. She might be here, in fact. Is she here? No? I don't want to be embarrassed. But I know she just got her visa. She's a lawyer by training, sociologist by also training. She's written monographs. She's engaged in legal battles on women's rights issues, particularly abuse of women. And she's written some very successful novels on that very subject. So she will be here on June 29th, same room, 420, same building 420, room 40, 6:30, June 29th, Sepideh Mohammadian. The subject of her talk is Women in Contemporary Literature of Iran, Seeking Meaning and Awareness. If that's not enough to bring you here, nothing will. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight, Shahriar Mandanipour. I've had the good fortune of knowing Mr. Mandanipour for a good 3 decades, and I knew him from Iran, and have followed his work here. We have had him here at Stanford a couple of times. We should have had him more. I hope we can have him more. On every level that I have seen him work, he has excelled. He was an excellent young writer when he was working in Iran. He was an excellent young editor when he edited a very successful literary journal. And he did it an unusual way. He didn't stay in Tehran and do what comes natural to Iranian intellectuals, to stay in the capital and publish a literary journal. He went to Shiraz, city of his birth, the city whose accent he still bears proudly, and started a very successful literary journal there. And then he was forced essentially to leave Iran because he wrote love stories that the regime wanted to censor. So he came to the United States. He taught at Harvard for a couple of years, at Brown for a couple of years, and he wrote a very successful novel here, one of the most, I think, in terms of the acclaim that he got, in terms of the reviews that he got. Censoring the Iranian Love Story is simply a remarkable work. I strongly urge you to go to the New Yorker and read the review that was written about it. It's one of the most glorious reviews of a translated Persian novel, in fact, of any novel that I have read. So he's a man that is truly dedicated to the excellence of his art, who is willing to pay the price of exile, of all kinds of hardship, to keep writing love stories and laugh at those who want to censor it. So please welcome Mr. Mandanipour. Please turn off your phone. I better turn off mine.
Yeah.
No, you can keep yours on.
No, nobody sent me a message.
From the Ministry of Islamic Guidance. Censor your talk.
No, it is the last check. Nobody's send me a love message so I can turn it off.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I know that it's so hard to sit here and listening to an Iranian, maybe sad story, instead of going to outside to a sort of academic tower outside. I really thank you. And I would like to thank Dr. Milani, my teacher at Tehran University, my best teacher at Tehran University.
Move the microphone a little bit higher. Your voice doesn't reach through.
So what can I do?
Much better.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I would like to thank Dr. Milani, my best teacher at Tehran University. Since it was supposed that I come to Stanford, it was, in my mind, was to give a talk about censorship and the techniques of fighting against censorship. It came to my mind that we Iranians are so expert to give a double mission or double-faced mission to words. My talk it was supposed to be in the double-faced word in Persian language or Iranian language. It came to my mind this point that when somebody asks us, where are you from? If recently Islamic Republic made a sort of crisis in the world or make the world make fun of us Iranians, we claim that we are Persian. And if Iranian national soccer team defeated, for instance, American soccer team, we proudly say, Iranian, we are Iranian. It came to my mind that Iranian I, Persian P, it is a sort of IP for we Iranians, Persian people in this world. A sort of walking on the edge. Past tense, glories of past, ancient history, and Iranian glories of our contemporary literature. But I decided at last, because I'm a writer, fiction writer, it's better that I read a story for you, a sort of IP story. So the title of the story is Ghost of Objects, translated by Sara Khalili. Madam, I'm going through worse time than you. I don't want to trouble you too much. At the very beginning, he found a seashell next to the soap dish by the sink. He started a big row, demanding to know where it came from. You probably brought it back from one of your drinking and debauchery trips to the coast up north, and you have forgotten, I said. He started shouting that he goes to the coast on important business assignments. I was about to say, then go ask your dear and darling temporary wives But I can't wrangle with him too much. Sometimes he has a hand for hitting. I don't know what he did with the seashell. It wasn't ugly. There was a little green algae in the growth on its surface, but its inside was like a pearl. It glowed. Later he found a sprouting potato in his bed. He has been sleeping apart from me for some time now. When he is done, he goes to his own bedroom. He came home in the middle of the night. I was asleep. He started yelling, "You witch, why do you do these things?" I said, "Why would I ever do such a thing?" He railed at me that it runs in my family. "Didn't your aunt go mad?" he said. I didn't dare answer, even if that poor soul lost her mind, it was because she had a husband like you. But the gentleman wasn't going to let it go. Holding the potato, he blustered, "If you ever do such things again, I will make you suffer horror that you won't forget even in your grave." Finally, I put the Quran in front of him, struck my hand on it, and swore on God's word that it wasn't my doing. I don't think he believed me, but he calmed down until the time when he found a dead scorpion in his boots. He attacked me. He beat me. He beat me until his hands hurt. They really know how to hit without leaving a mark on you. He assigned a guard to keep watch on the house to see who comes and goes. I thought I should do something. I went to Haji Tawakkoli and sought his help. He has visions. He knows about the invisible world. Your house is haunted by jinns, he said. He gave me a bottle of jinn and devil's repellent water and 7 or 8 pieces of paper with prayers written on them. I put them here and there around the house, and I put one inside the cotton stuffing of his mattress. They didn't work. May devil be deaf. I have started wondering if Haji's prayers are always the same. A few days later, in the morning, when he was leaving for work, there was a large black feather from a crow, or I don't know, from a raven in his pocket. It looked like its tip had been chewed on. My troubles started all over again. He slapped me harder than he had ever slapped me before. After he left, I packed a small suitcase, and for the first time, I went to Mother's house, sulking. I was free of him for a week, and then he came to take me back home. He seemed to have lost weight. As always, he was loud to speak from the heart. Mumbling, he finally said that while I was away, again a few things had appeared around the house. He admitted that he had been wrong believing it was all my doing. No, he didn't say what they were, but the way he asked me to go back home made me feel sorry for him. he had never behaved in a way that would make me pity him. A day earlier, I had consulted with my cousin who is university educated. He said he has to go to the psychoanalyst. I had no idea what a psychoanalyst does. I blurted it out right there at the front door. Again, he became angry and shouted, "Are you suggesting I have gone mad? And how dare you call that lecherous cousin of yours?" He knows my cousin had asked for my hand in marriage. What could I do? I went back home. It was 2 or 3 days after my return when on the living room table, next to the crystal fruit bowl, a pine cone with a piece of Turkish rope had, according to him, made a nonsense of themselves. One of these pretty pine cones whose scale open up and they fall to the ground, and there are these tasty seeds between their scales, if the crows and the sparrows leave any behind. Ah, they are so delicious. I like them so much. He hurled it at the window. It was close. The glass cracked. I didn't say this to him, but I thought one of these days he's going to bring the roof down over our heads. He squatted on the floor and held his head in his hands. He kept growling at I don't know who, saying, "This time, too, I will make sure you yourself confess that you are a scoundrel." "Well, sir," I said, "have a chat with your fellows at the military base. Perhaps the same thing have been happening to them too." He snapped back, "That's all that's left for me to do. And they will make up stories about me being shell-shocked." He was bragging. As far as I know, this guardian of Islam was never at the front line of war. For a while, there were no more incidents at home. I said to myself, thank God, it's over. The gentleman's male virility returned, and he stopped kicking and punching in his sleep and shouting, "I will make you talk." Naive me, when it first started, I would wake him up and ask, "Are you talking to me?" No, still nothing. The last doctor we went to conducted a lot of tests, and in the end said, "There is nothing wrong with either one of you. You should be able to have children. Be patient." I, for one, have been patient for so many years that my gut aches. Out of the street, when I see a young child walking hand in hand with his mother, or running after her with sweet, tiny steps, my eyes fill with tears. I said to him, Prophet Shah Abdul Azim, may God preserve him, didn't bless us with anything. Let's go to Qom to pray and make vows to God. After all, Prophet Masumeh was a woman. She will understand our pain. There is a hadith that says, of the 8 doors of heaven, 3 lead to Qom. I will even make coal from my for my eyes with the dirt in its desert. It is just its salty water that makes me ill. When we went, he tossed 5 1,000 2-months bills in the shrine. I thought, look at him. When it comes to Prophet Masume, he's suddenly such a spender. He only threw in 500 2-months at Shah Abdulazim's shrine. He makes me account for every single rial of the measly money he gives me for household expenses. But little by little, I have been saving some on the side. I have vowed that if I bear a child, even if it's not a boy, once a month, I will cook a pot of food and take it to the orphanage for the children to have a proper meal. But it didn't happen, and things didn't stay the same. One night, when we were eating, a pendant from the chandelier above the dining room table. Yes, for almost a year now, the gentleman insists that we eat at the massive table. It's because of complexes from his childhood that he puts on these airs. But it's certainly not as pleasant as spreading the dinner cloth on the floor, sitting cross-legged, and preparing small bits with your fingers. Anyway, we were eating dinner when one of the chandelier's crystal pendants fell down in the middle of the table. It shattered. I screamed and ran off. He just sat there and stared at the crystal shards. I had never seen such a look in his eyes. There was something strange that frightened me. He didn't say a word. I swear to God, if I had any rights at all, I would have divorced him. Madam, I just screamed. I screamed as much as I could. I clawed at my hair and screamed. He didn't even open his mouth to say, "Shut up, wench." And then I sat and wept. What else can we do other than wail and whimper? In the middle of the night, I woke up with a start and I went and saw him still sitting at the dining room table. He had gathered the crystal shards in front of him. The shimmer reflected on his face and beard. His eyes 2 cups of blood. Not that he had cried. He wasn't supposed to be holding anything, he said. It fell from his hand. Who? What? I asked. He didn't answer me. From that night, on his talking in his sleep and barking military orders increased. I was around that time when I decided to plant flowers. It was around that time when I decided to plant flowers in the garden. Perhaps it would help change his frightening mood. I planted violets. Some other flowers that I had never seen before started to grow in between them. He asked me what they were called. I told him I didn't know. I said, the picture of the flowers on the package of seeds was pretty, so I bought it, and the shopkeeper told me their name, but I forget it. He realized I was lying. One by one, he forced the tips of his Coles cartridge off their cases. all the while grumbling. All the while grumbling. What you deserve is for me to shoot the bullets at you one by one, from your heels all the way up to your sinful, depraved brain. He poured the gunpowder around those flowers. In 2 days, they all dried up. Then he said, pull them out. I swear they were such pretty flowers. They were a sweet and dainty shade of pink that I had never seen before and have never seen since. No, what odd question you ask. They haven't stopped. One that really tore at my heart was a baby swaddle. We were coming back from a party. It was clean, but it wasn't new. It was right there inside the front door. He started cursing at someone I didn't know. He said, you want to rattle me, young fiddle? This time, instead of bottom, I will shaft you with a pole so big that 100 carpenters won't be able to take it out. I told myself, no matter what happens, I have to get to the bottom of all this. Time and time again, I tried to trick him into talking, but he divulged nothing. His court is always with him. His court is always with him. In the afternoon or more often at night, when he comes back from work or from the home of one of his temporary wives, he immediately puts it on top of the television within his reach. Even now that nothing is going on, he's still afraid of being assassinated. He puts it under his pillow when he sleeps. One afternoon around 1 o'clock, he had hardly been home from an hour when he frantically asked, where is my coat? How would I know? I was in for it. Generally, wherever he comes home, I too catch his nervousness. When he realized I couldn't find his gun, he started looking for it as well, suggesting as usual that I was incompetent and inept. He turned the house upside down and made a mess. Madam, it was nowhere to be found. Perhaps you didn't bring it home with you, I said. He searched his pocket more than 10 times. He was frustrated. He searched my coverall and chador. When he realized we weren't going to find it, I went to prepare his dinner. At night, too, he wants rice and stew or rice mixed with herbs and vegetables. The day he came to ask for my hand in marriage, he was a handsome, slender young man. May God not forgive my father for having forced me to accept his proposal. He said, the country now belongs to the guardians of Islamic revolution. It will belong to you and belong to you too. You should see my husband now. He has a punch. Anyway, when I reached into the sack of rice, God save us, his coat was there, wrapped in a piece of knitting. It was obvious it had not been completed. The yarn was blue. I took it and gave it to him. He looked it over and said it wasn't his coat. Then I guess it must be mine, I said. He shouted at me and told me to get lost. If you are a real man, I said, tell these things that appear in the house to get lost. I have a store in the kitchen for when I need to reach to top cabinets. He woke me up early one morning, and as if he knew what my answer was going to be, he asked, "Did you put this in the living room?" With no hesitation, I snapped back, "Have I gone batty and berserk to do such a thing?" These days I talk back a little. Yes, and I just remember one day he had barely been gone from 2 hours when he came back from the base completely crazed. He used to occasionally come home unexpectedly. He would come up with some excuses to check up on me and make sure I wasn't up to any bad deed. But that day he was totally riled. He had completely lost it. Apparently something had happened, something had suddenly appeared in his office. He didn't say what. All he said was, "The motherfucker has found his way into my office too." He went to the front yard, pacing and grinding his teeth. I took him some tea. He struck his hand under the tray. He broke my narrow-waisted, gold-rimmed tea glasses. My heart ached. I swear it really ached. The tea glass was part of my trousseau. He broke my heart. This is how it was until one night when he walked out of his bedroom, rasping alarm, I ran out of my room. He didn't let me go in to see what had appeared there. Just like someone burning with fever, he was sweating, trembling. He asked me to sit next to him so that he could rest his head on my shoulder. What? He had never done any such thing. When he had calmed down a little, he started to talk. In short, this was all during the year when the anti-revolution prisoners were being executed in hordes, he said. There were so many of them that for them to die on the scaffold more quickly, he or the soldiers would leap up and wrap their arms around the prisoners, the communists or whatever they were, hanging from the noose, so that they would quickly suffocate and make room for the others. He said the prisoners were not supposed to have anything with them, but one of them dropped something he had in his hand. The instant the platform gave away under his feet, he said it was something that didn't belong there, that it made a clanging sound. But he didn't, and still hasn't said what it was. I don't think he ever will. What do you think it was? Thank you so much. Should I stay here?
Question?
Yeah, questions. The hard part for right now. But I welcome questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have really hard time to understand exactly what you are trying to say.
Yeah.
Also your audience. Who are you trying to connect? And what are maybe is my problem, but I could not understand it. I could not make that kind of connection with what you were saying.
Yeah, it could be double problem, as I was talking about double mission on the words. It is because maybe the tone in my English reading, the tone of a story is so important in the text, and there were times maybe I lost it. But on the other hand, I appreciate your patience, and thank you for mentioning it. Yes?
Is the story published in a book or online?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't publish yet in English. It is recently translated. Persian or Iranian version of it is published outside of Iran, not Iran.
And what is the name of that?
The Ghost of Object, or Ghost of Objects.
In Persian?
Arwah Ashya.
Actually, I was amazed how you find a way to connect to the story of, if I'm mistaken, because, this is how I've never read that before. So I thought you were talking from the point of view of the wife of someone who is post-star or revolutionary god, or probably even worse than that. Torture, maybe? So, I don't know, just...
Interrogator.
Integrated, thank you. The fact that you didn't say that at the beginning, and you took us just slowly, little by little, exposed that fact to us as a reader, I found it fascinating. That's not what I was expecting. And I usually heard stories directly about interrogators and what happens in, Evin or prisoners, what happened to political prisoners. But at least for me, it was the first time I saw that picture from a completely different point of view of a wife. So that was refreshing. Thank you. Thank you.
The story, to me, when I was listening to it, particularly when it ended, has very strong echoes of a Golshiri story. Golshiri has a story called Shahriar Mandanipour, that I'm sure you have read. It's translated into King of the Benighted. It is about what happens to those prisoners inside the prison. You're basically telling that story from the vintage of the wife of the torturer. It is a complete echo, wonderful echo, a sort of a new look, a new sort of Kurosawa kind of a look. He looks at it from the inside, you're looking at it from the outside of the outside. A woman who lives with a torturer and suffers the torturer, him, who is torturing people at the Shahriar Mandanipour. It's just a remarkable story. Congratulate you on the wonderful, wonderful story.
Thank you.
I like that you also kind of demonstrated the torture of the torturer himself. Like, he's not a happy person. He's also struggling, and he's, going crazy, going mad.
Yes.
What was your inspiration to write such a story?
As a writer, first of all, making the voice of such a character, I don't used to, or I'm not accustomed to look at these things black and white. And I would like to make the voice of this woman or this wife, the wife of an interrogator, in psychological way or in a surreal way. The story is just a monologue. The form of a story doesn't allow me to explain to the reader who is she and what is the relation between her and her husband, or what is her husband's job. It must be understand among the lines. For me, although, of course, I was hurt when I read about execution, the waves of execution in Iran's prisons. 2 major waves they were. And when I read that they jump up and wrap their arms on the body of the person to help them to die sooner, it really shocked me, and I suffered so much from this picture. How a man could do something like that, which kind of creature, which kind of person he could be. This suffering, this hurting was in my heart for years and years. But at the end of the day, I found out the voice of the wife. Yeah, it was a great point. A torturer is torturing in his house as well by some simple things. In a writing, you could make these things something magical or something so much strange. But no, a pancon, a seashell, something small and something ordinary in our life. But they could be like the lashes that they used to use in prisons. This is what I tried to write in this story. And particularly the voice of the woman in a sort of monologue. The scene of the story is the woman or the wife is sitting and she has an audience in front of her. Whatever her audience said, it was deleted from the story. There are times that he called her madam and answering some questions of her. But the form of the story is a monologue. It comes in a monologue. So the form doesn't let me, I shouldn't impose any more information in the story. It must come from what the woman or the wife trying to say and what not trying to say. And it was interesting for me to make such a narration. Yes?
I would like to ask a question about Iranian literature more generally. Okay? And, some people might find this a provocative or controversial question. I don't mean to offend anybody. I really am interested in this. As a writer who has written about the Iranian Revolution, and I see it as the topic of our time, I know lots of Iranian literature that express these very sad stories, and especially about the dissonance created in people's minds that live under such a tyranny and oppression. It reminds me somewhat of the final days of the Soviet Union, when many writers were writing about the dissonance created for Soviet citizens by living a lie and being fearful all the time. But nobody could identify or directly confront the ideological issue of communism. It was forbidden, right? So people used oblique references and they told very sad stories, as if Iranian literature now is full of these sad stories. I think it's a rich mind of stories, as you've demonstrated. That's a very rich story. But no one, to my knowledge, is directly confronting the pathology of Islam that is driving this. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Is this due to censorship in the same way that the Soviet writers had to live under a code of silence? Or is there some issue about Islam that prevents it from being directly confronted? Your answer, please.
It depends on from where the writer is coming. There are writers that are writing in Iran, so because of censorship, they can't write frankly or clearly about Islam.
I don't see this kind of confrontation even coming from the diaspora. No one is taking this topic, to my knowledge. I would love to be wrong.
As I understood, you are talking about a sort of Islamic ideology, or Islam as an ideology. I think Iranian writers are writing about it in storytelling or in the writerly way. There shouldn't be some sort of slogans or some analyses about Islam. Indirectly, for instance, in this story, directly, the man is Islamic Guard.
Okay, but that's political Islam. You see my point?
Yeah.
It's a one-off. It's not a direct pointed confrontation with the basic pathology. It's Islamic politics, Islamic culture, Islamic treatment of women, these issues that have to do with Islam, but not Islam.
Yeah. It depends on the writers, and I think we have to read at last a complete works of a writer, if he achieved something like it or not. In general, I think year by year, Iranian writers, they are getting closer and closer to the heart of the darkness. And it's a good news.
Okay, why?
Because they are living in this situation.
Who's doing it? Is it secret? I mean, you can't say who's doing this.
Some Iranian writers.
That's it?
You know.
Read Persian?
Some.
Well, there's a lot written by very directly critical of Islam, both inside
Maybe it's
Iran.
just not available to me.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that, part of it is that it's not always directly in literature, but I'm amazed at the amount of daring, right?
I'm assuming it's dangerous to do that.
Well, in Iran, it's your life. In Iran, it's strictly against the law to write anything. It's one of the rules of censorship.
Is there some cultural taboo?
I think there is a cultural issue as well. Most centuries of Iranian writing, whether poetry or fiction, Iranians are so used to reading between the lines that it's not required for someone to explicitly state what is going on. We can read between the lines and interpret it for ourselves. So if it's written for an Iranian audience, you don't have to explicitly point fingers. Most of us interpret it as what we want it to be interpreted as. So it may just be a cultural phenomenon.
I think directly and indirectly it happens in Iranian literature. We shouldn't force Iranian writers to just make a war against Islam. It is against every darkness in Iran or in such a country like Iran. But from the era of Bufakur or blind owl, you could see, blind owl, you could see that it is the blade of writing, indirectly, in an artistic way, it is against Islam. It is against the superstitions. It is against the uneducated people.
Tyranny of the mind?
Yeah, I think if you read Hidayat, he's a sort of the father of modern Iranian literature or modern Persian literature. He started it, and in many stories you can see. There are times that censor didn't let the writers going to publish it, or maybe dare not to write about it directly. But there are times we could see between the lines as music, there are times that the silence, some silence in literature, or lack of something, it doesn't mean that the writer didn't see that point. Sometimes the lack of something in an artistic story or a novel makes the reader to think about that hollow, to think about what is not there. This is, I think, the artistic way that some Iranian writers are doing it, more or less.
I also think that the story of Islam, like attacking Islam, is different than other religions because, like, you can make fun of Jesus and you won't die because of it. But you make fun of Muhammad, it can be really expensive, as what happened for Salman Rushdie. So it doesn't. Also, these are like fiction writing, and how would you feel if somebody starts to write an essay in the middle of fiction about the role of Islam or all of this? I think that it's a story, so it's better to be indirect, you know, than explaining what's wrong with Islam. Indirect.
Yes?
It's important to know which kind of Islam we are discussing. Different expression of Islam we know in the world we have. For example, Hafiz and Rumi is Muslim, and Al-Qaeda and Daesh is Muslim also. There is important to know which kind of Islam we discussed about that one.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, but let's back to literature and talk about literature, even literature against religion or against fundamentalism or against dictatorship, censorship. And let's get back to the aesthetics of literature, Iranian literature. As a writer, I can talk like an academic person, academic teacher about Islam or some political matters. I would like to talk about literature, and Iranian literature, Persian literature, everything as it is, whatever that we call it. And I think it is an endured literature. It is endured particularly in past 30 years. Censorship, assassination, terror. But it survived, and it could make beauties. When something in this world, ugliness, darkness is spreading all over the world, somehow, as we see, the important point is that I as a writer, you as a writer, any artist could make something beautiful. There is no matter if it would be directly against that darkness, or it would be about the beauties of a tree. Make a beauty of a tree in the beautiful story. Write a beautiful story. Writing a beautiful story. Even about love, even about a tree, even about a child. Not a political one, but with the aesthetic of literature, it is hardly against darkness and censorship and dictatorship. Because of it, even though a novel is published in Iran in 1,000 copies, not more, unfortunately. And we will see that the leader of Iran, a major bureau, Islamic guidance, culture and Islamic guidance bureaus, censor mission. Many people, they are there to censor 1,000, just a novel in 1,000 copies. Why are they afraid of it? And the novels are about life. They are not directly against Islam or against dictatorship. Why the dictator and its ministries are against this kind of novel as well? Why they scared of it? Because these kind of novels are talking about life, talking about beauties, that there are beauties in this world. There are alive people in this world. There are some characters in novels and outside of the novels that they are not like that characters that the dictator wants that everybody would be or should be. Because of it, dictatorship is against novels. It's against real arts. So, in my mind, writing a good story, no matter what would be the subject, writing a good story in the rules, in the aesthetics of literature, a successful, good story, it would be like a bullet, firing a bullet to the heart of darkness. Yes?
You know, it's interesting you said that, because I was just thinking about, I was thinking why we need to look at this whole thing as, Islamic versus, anything else, And this young lady here mentioned something about the culture. So, I think resistance manifests itself in different ways.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best ways that the resistance manifests itself is literature. Because you can, particularly in an environment where there's censorship, it's for an intellectual, for somebody who wants to resist, it's great to, bring the subject, as a beautiful story that you said, that I can read it and I can read between the lines what you think and what you want to tell me that you cannot tell me directly. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. We have a whole Ministry of Culture and Guidance. We call it Culture and Guidance, mm-hmm. and it's put there only for censorship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you're saying, why the dictator wants, a ministry, the whole ministry there, that's because they're afraid of resistance.
Yeah, that's it. And it occurred in my mind, one of my experiences in the wartime. I was serving my army services in Iran-Iraq war. We were in a defending front line, and long, hot summer days. And at that time, I started to write stories. When you are at the heart of an event or incident, you can write about it, particularly in a literary way. So at that time, I didn't write about a story about war. Every day I was living in war. So on that, in our shelter, that when we sit down, our hair touch the roof of the ceiling of the shelter with a lantern. I was writing a love story. It was occurred in the beautiful north part of Iran. A love story. There were times that we were close to Iraqis front line as well. And at that time, all the Western countries, they were supporting Saddam's army. And so they have everything that they wanted. Too much mortars, cannons, everything. There were times that when I was writing, I could hear the sounds of firing a mortar shell from Iraqis line to us. It takes about 3 seconds, 3-4 seconds, that the mortar came over our line. If it fell down on the roof of our shelter, all of us were killed with chopped meat or flesh. And if because of the wind or something, accidentally something, if it goes over somewhere, we had another chance to live. And that there was 3 seconds, 4 seconds that I had when I was riding. I hear the firing voice. And I had just a time, 3 seconds to choose another word and write it at that time. It was all my life, all my chance to write. I couldn't do anything. When in mortar shell, you couldn't see firing mortars and cannons. You couldn't see even the enemy. They are over behind of the mountain or hills. 3 seconds, 4 seconds I had to write, to choose the best word, the best adjective or adverb for this scene of my story, love story. At that moment, I feel with my flesh, my blood, the meaning of literature and the words. No matter if I am writing a love story, a story about war, about prisoners, political prisoners, no matter. I have to choose the best word and gather my life, all my opportunities, to choose the best word. And if I do it well, I am a fighter for freedom as well. I would be. I hope so that I could be. But my front line is literature. And I think it works very well. In 30 years, the Iranian dictatorship, they feel it very well. They assassinated writers, our best journalists, our best translators, in a serial killing plot. I was one of them in a plot of killing about 21 Iranian poets and writers. We were heading to Armenian. We had an invitation from Association of Armenian Writers. Naively, we sit in a bus and we were heading to the north part of Iran, and it was a plot. Our driver, the driver of the bus, at the early morning, he drove the bus to the edge of the cliff and jumped out. And the bus goes there because he was afraid of his life somehow. He wasn't a good assassinator. And fortunately, he didn't accelerate the bus enough. And he was so eager to jump out. He has a little big in the dashboard of the bus. I was awake and I saw him. He grabbed it and jumped out. The bus went to the edge of the cliff and stayed there. Then he came inside and started shouting at us. You make noises, you make me confused, something like that, and claimed that we forced him to make a mistake, something like it. So he pulled back the bus again. Some of us thought maybe he was asleep. It is in Iran driving style or driving culture. It's normal that the bus driver, when he found out that there would be an accident, they jump out. We are familiar with it. So I thought, many of us thought that he was asleep, and he suddenly found out that we are going to a deep valley. So he jumped out. The second time he pulled back the bus and then drive it and then turn the wheel to the cliff and again grab his bag and jump out. And again the bus goes down And fortunately, there was a huge stone at the edge of the valley or cliff. And the bus stopped there. And we came out at the door, from the door of driver doors. And it was funny for us. It was like a joke. I felt like we were just like lambs, 21 of us, riders that we claim that we are smart, intellectuals. Like lambs, we gathered together in a bus. When they arrested us after that morning, and there was a person that he was, after in Khatami's era, they forced to arrest that group, that band, Said Imami's band. And he was the assistant of Said Imami. He came to that place in northern part of Iran when we were arrested by police. And he told us, are you crazy? You were crazy. You are doing political matters in this country. And all of you, 21 of you, sitting in a bus, you didn't think that it is a good chance for everybody, not us, even for instance, the enemies of us, to kill you and then say Islamic Republic done it. He was right. Anyway, we were alive, but so because of these things, and after years and years, sorry that I am talking so much, years ago, I was in University, Tehran University. I had many good friends, political friends, communists, mujahid, the other kind, liberals. And after years looking for a sort of ideology, a sort of way that I could realize the world, I could identify the world, I could understand the world, at last I find my shelter, that shelter that I mentioned in the world, literature. And I got it that literature is a good way for living. And I always said, when you are writing a story, at that moment that you put the last period after the last sentence of your story, when you feel that you write a good story, no matter if the critics get it well or not well, no matter, if you feel that you did a good job, you will feel it somehow. That moment, putting that period at the end of the last sentence, the pleasure of that moment, no pleasure in this world could compare with that pleasure. And because of it, I'm trying to write as much as I could.
I wanted to ask you, when you read your work that has been translated, like this piece has been, into English, how does it affect you from point of view of the aesthetics of the literature, or from point of view of the effect it has on you, the emotion that it conjures up? Which version do you like better? If it's at all possible to answer the question. Persian version or the English?
Because my language is Persian, and all my identity is in my prose, not only in my language, in the prose that I try to write my stories, the tone that I try to make, for instance, in this story. So I would like, I like the Persian version of it. You know, in translation, it is said that translation is, I'm sorry that I'm telling this bad example. I'm sorry, I'm a feminist as well. But it is said that translation is like a woman. If it would be beautiful, it couldn't be faithful. It would be faithful, it couldn't be beautiful. I apologize. But it is a good example. Or as a man, translation is as a man. It would be handsome, it couldn't be faithful. Anyway, but if the translator could feel the story, it depends on the translator, and recreate the story in the second language, it would be a good job. There were times that my stories failed in translation. But, for instance, I really appreciate Sara Khalili, that she translated my novel, Censoring an Iranian Love Story, that based on her translation in English, that novel translated to other 10 or 11 other languages. When I see it in English, okay, I can read it, and there are times that some words I couldn't understand. There's a dictionary. But there are times that there is this mysterious feeling you can get. I feel it when I saw the South Korean translation of my novel. They send it to me, and I look at it and so which way I have to read. Okay, in German, I don't know German. But I could, for instance, I can read the name of my characters in the novel, Sara and Dara. So it is my novel. But as a joke, I said, okay, it is South Korean narration. How could I be sure that the translator didn't put his novel instead of my novel? How could I be sure? There are some jokes about it. It's a sort of feeling that your word, that words from under mortal shell firing, goes somewhere. It has a good feeling, and somehow, I don't know if the others has such a feeling. Somehow I feel that I expose too much. There are times that I don't know, I can't talk about it, but there are times that when I see my book at the bookstores, I feel a little bit sad about it, happy and a little bit sad. It seems that our time is over. Dr. Villani understood. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.